All right. Well,
Yeah, that's better. Now I can see you.
okay, good. All right. And then let's see if I can do this. Let's see, ask to start video.
Well, under the topic tonight, I'm taking odds that she'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Hello, everybody. I'm going to start the meeting now. Okay. So we have taken a look at the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
First,
Okay, Gail, who got a second?
Second by Santos.
Second by Santos. Okay, great. All in favor? Say aye or
Aye.
hand,
Aye.
hand. Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay, so what's the next thing we're doing? We're going to read, have Carolyn read the minutes of the January 13th general meeting. So it's all yours, Carolyn.
Need to unmute. All
There you
right. The meeting was called to order at 7:07 p.m. by President Bill Hare. The program for the evening was a presentation of video bites of Milpitas history, moderated by Joe Ehart. And that included the Main Street tour with Joanne Souza, the Caretaker's House tour at the Higuera Adobe, and the Shaughnessy Milk Shed tour. There was the approval of the agenda. That was a motion by Rich Santos and seconded by Steve Menzel, and that passed. The minutes of the November 13, 2020 meeting was read. Motion to accept by Steve Menzel and Rich Santos passed. Seconded it, and that passed. The treasurer's report was presented by Joe Ehart. Current total assets as of December 31st was $63,457.88. Steve Menzel was the motion to receive, seconded by Danny Cosper, and that passed. Under business, it was the presentation of a slate of nominees for 2021 at Milpitas Historical Society Board for vote. President Bill Hare, Vice President Catherine Pellizzari, Treasurer Joe Ehart, Secretary Carolyn Tiernan, Membership Dan Cosper, Special Events and Publicity Harriet McGuire, Education and Archives Joe Ehart, Programs and Public Relations Catherine Pellizzari, Historian Joanne Souza. Bill Hare called for a vote by the membership in attendance, which passed. For announcements, Bill Hare talked about the installation dinner. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, this will be a virtual event on Zoom scheduled for the second Wednesday in February 20th, or not. That would be February 10th. Our guest speaker will be Ted Ramos with a presentation on Images of America, History of Gambling in San Jose. Information for attending this Zoom meeting will be sent out. Bill Hare and Joe Ehart are working on a short video for presentation at a later meeting. The death of Elaine Levin, a founding member of the Milpitas Historical Society, was announced. Bill Silker shared an old construction photo of the Golden Gate Bridge circa 1938-1939, and also a photo of 1983 Milpitas Coyote Creek flood. The meeting was adjourned at 8:31 p.m. Motion by Irma Menzel and seconded by Steve Menzel, which passed. And that was respectfully submitted by Irma Menzel.
Great, thank you, Carolyn. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Santos, so moved.
Santos, okay, second, Danny? Yep, Danny Cosper. There's a second on that one. All in favor? Hold up your hand. Aye, we're all good. Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Joe, can you unmute and give us the treasurer report?
So the overview of financial assets is we have our CD at $40,000, which comes due about mid-year. That'll expire. The checking account currently has $17,918.05. And I broke that down into two categories, which we need to do because we're doing some special receipt of income at the moment. So unrestricted funds are regular funds at $17,038.05. The special restricted funds are the Elaine Levine Memorial Fund, and that's $888. The two of those equal our checking account balance. In our MCM donation account, this is what we use for maintaining the collection that the society has of artifacts. We have $5,167.13 in cash, if you will. And petty cash is $100. So our overall financial assets are $63,185.18. And it's kind of simple because it's basically this is reporting in January, the January balances. So it's only 1 month of the year. We have 15 cents in interest on our checking account. $50.54 comes from the CD. That floats around a little bit depending upon the number of days in the month. And the Elaine Levine Memorial Fund, in terms of January, we had $680, which says that there's $200 that came from in December. So our total deposits were $730.69. So, and we wrote 3 checks, one for $88.35. That's our membership with the Milpitas Chamber of Commerce. That's actually discounted because we paid before February. The insurance, State Farm Insurance of $87.04. That's we do this once every 6 months, and that's the insurance for covering Leaping Lena at the library. Okay, and then I wrote 1 check to Gail, which was basically all of her work last year for $470. She's our webmaster, and she's with us tonight. And our other account, which is, like I say, it's our what I call the collection account, if you will. Our previous month's balance was, $5,167.09. We got 4 cents interest, so we have a new balance. Basically, adding 4 cents to 9 is 13. We're getting basically about 50 cents a year in interest on $5,000, which is pretty bad. But that's the reality of things. And that's the treasurer's report.
Great, thank you. So can I have a motion to receive the treasurer's report as presented?
So moved by Santos.
Okay, all right, it looked like Danny got there for the second as well. Okay, so Daniel Cosper for second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, approved. Okay, we're gonna hand it over to our illustrious mayor here. So Rich Tran is going to give us the oath of office. So the top 8 people on your screen should be the board of directors, everybody between Rich and Harriet. Everybody seeing it that way? Everybody's in gallery view right now? Okay, so you can just see us raise our hands, and so why don't we have the board all unmute so we can do the say your name, all that sort of stuff.
Harriet Phipps in and out.
There we go. Okay.
Look at him.
All right.
Raise your other hand.
Long and buffered.
All right.
I know. but
Take it
you
over,
see
Rich.
right hand.
Move it over.
And thank you, Bill. Thank you so much. I want to say what an honor it is again to be here tonight. I'm very humbled by the history of Milpitas and our historical society, as well as its leadership, are the caretakers of every person in the past that has contributed to where we are today. And I know our years together here will play a vital role for the historical society going forward every decade. And so I just want to say how blessed I am to call this community my home, one where I can look at everybody on the Zoom, and I know that for each person that's here tonight, there's a sincere, deep passion for a place called Milpitas, California. So I want to congratulate the board members that will be performing and repeating the oath of office tonight. I give great admiration and recognition and appreciation to each of you, because we don't take our history lightly here in town. And for your leadership, I thank you. So typically when we're up there at, it's Bayview now, folks. It's no longer Summit Point up there. It's called Bayview Golf Club, no longer Summit Point.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's kind of an odd factoid here.
I like Summer Point.
Throw in. There's a new owner, but that's for a different topic for another day. But any other year, we would all be together and we'd be gathered, and I would be able to go down the line with the positions. But tonight we will just go all together. I see Daniel with his hand up already, so I better hurry up. His hands losing blood there, so I gotta hurry up. Okay, folks, please raise your right hand like me. Okay, very special oath of office. So I'm going to sort of say a few words at a time, and please repeat after me.
To unmute.
Okay. All right, here we go, folks. Here we are. We're going to begin. We are ready. Here we go. I state your name.
I,
Bill
Tiernan,
sorry.
Do solemnly promise
Do
solemnly
promise
to protect and defend
To
To
protect.
protect
and
and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the
the
Constitution of the United States
and the state of California,
and the
and the
state of
state of
California,
California,
to uphold the bylaws
to uphold the bylaws
bylaws
of the Milpitas Historical Society
of the
Milpitas
Milpitas
Historical
Historical
Society.
Society,
and to faithfully perform
and to
faithfully
faithfully perform
perform
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
ability.
Congratulations to you all, and I wish you the best year ahead.
Although I just
Thank
feel
you,
like
Mayor
I signed up
Tran.
for 3 years of service. I don't know.
Bill, we'll go back to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, and congratulations to the board. And here we are, another year. Hopefully sometime this year, we will actually be meeting again live. But for now, we're doing this, and we're going to make the best of it, and it's going to be fun anyway. So we're going to now have our presentation. So what we can do, if you want to go to your view tabs, you can switch over to speaker view, and that way when Ted starts speaking, he will get big and fill the screen for us. So Ted, if you want to unmute, and everybody else mute your screen, and we will hear from you. Thank you.
I gotta say how good that beard looks on our mayor.
Yes.
You guys can hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, all right. Thank you again. Thank you for the invitation for speaking to your club. Like you, I'm a huge history fan, especially of San Jose, where I was born and raised. A little bit about me. I was born and raised here in South San Jose. I attended San Jose High School downtown. I graduated from Stanislaus State College with a bachelor's in criminal justice. I am a police officer with the city of San Jose. I've been so for going on 23 years now. So I got 2 more left, and then I can retire and possibly do some more research full time and stuff like that. How I got into the history of San Jose gambling was during my career with the police department. I worked for a unit called the Division of Gaming Control. It was a unit part of the special investigations unit right out of the chief. We reported right to the chief's office. And what we did was we regulated the 2 card rooms in San Jose, Casino Matrix and Bay 101. It was there where I started finding more information regarding the past, San Jose's gambling past. And that was mostly because of all the other card rooms that used to be in San Jose. And so when I was looking through all the old files and stuff like that, trying to familiar myself with San Jose's history and stuff like that, I was seeing all these different type of clubs. And a lot of the times when I asked people about them, they had no idea. No, they did not have a clue of what consisted of these clubs. And so I thought that, well, maybe I should start researching this. And when I started doing that, the book idea started to come about. And lo and behold, 3.5 years later of research, San Jose Gambling was published. I would got to say that it wasn't the best time of publishing because it came out in March and COVID hit, and I had a bunch of places to do signings and to do speeches in person. That included seeing some of my mementos and photographs and stuff like that, but that all got squashed. So, but this is the next best thing. And again, thank you for the invite. Can you guys see the page presentation? Yes? Okay, so right here. Okay, this is about my book. If you guys haven't gotten one already, they're in stores, the local stores, but you can also order it on Amazon, and Target, Barnes and Noble, and stuff like that. Or you can get it directly through me through my website. If you want a signed copy, just you can PayPal me on my email, which you guys have, $24, and I'll ship it right to you. So if you guys are interested in that, hit me up with an email and we can get that all arranged. All right, well, I talked about myself already, but this picture was taken during my time with the Gaming Control when the World Series of Poker, not World Series, but the World Poker Tour stopped by Bay 101 once a year. During the final table that was televised. Prior to that, I would go over there and I would kind of look at all the connections, making sure that everything was done properly through the San Jose Municipal Code Title 16, as well as the California Gaming Control Act, as well as making sure that the feed of the cameras, this was the most important part, that the actual feed from the cameras was only going directly to one place, and that was the people doing the commentary, and it wasn't being sent out somewhere else to prevent, of course, cheating. So, and that's me. And by the way, all that money back there, it looks real, but it's fake. All it is it's actually, there's $100 bill that's real, and it's taped behind a block of cardboard. So it looks like it's stacks of cash, but it's not. Okay, so we'll start at the beginning of gambling in San Jose. And I like to always mention about the beginning of gambling in San Jose was basically the same time when gambling became big in California, and that was during the gold rush time, when the people were rushing down over to seek their fortune in gold. And that consisted of a lot of men. Of course, where there's a lot of men and not a lot of women. Men tried to keep themselves entertained, and that included the vices, which was gambling, drinking, and prostitution. If you haven't seen my book, the top picture right here where I'm circling it there, that was actually from the Quicksilver mines of New Almaden. And just like in mining gold or mining Quicksilver, the men are here, they're playing their games during the time that goes by. During probably around the late 1800s, California was getting tired of the gambling problems, and so they started to enact gambling control laws by outlawing everything from the popular games at the time, which was pan, roulette, craps, the older slot machines, and faro. And so when they outlawed the slot machines, they kind of went around the laws by creating these trade stimulators, which you can see right here. Basically, it's, you put in a coin, but instead of winning money, you can win a prize, whatever the store was, whether it's candy, cigars, or a beer. But a lot of these clubs would, instead of issuing that stuff, they kind of look around, give a little wink and a nod, and the payment would be given from the bartender over to the person playing the game. And that these were very common in bars and in cigar shops which you can see right here on the bottom here where I'm circling it. It's the Alonji Cigar Shop in downtown. That was on the corner of Post and First Street. And Post Street, I'll talk about it later on. That was where the heyday of early San Jose's gambling and vices were occurring at the time. Picture right here, this is from the Palace Hotel, which was located near the, what was that Alameda area, or where the train station was. So that's that, and let's see. And also I have a thing on the illegal clubs. This was probably the most fun topic that I found out. If you guys are aware of the during Prohibition and stuff like that, San Jose's biggest bootlegger was this gentleman right here. His name was John Licurdo. He opened up a club over off of Almaden Avenue, which was called Hawaiian Gardens. It was San Jose's biggest, most elaborate illegal casino. He got busted many times. In fact, unfortunately, I think it was because after my book came out, I actually located his grandson, who's 80 years old, still living in San Jose. And I went over there and visited him over his house. And inside his house, he had a lot of these collectibles that were from he had a few old slot machines that were in his dad's club. He had the roulette wheel that was on there that he had converted into a coffee table. Racks of chips, which he gave me a few. And so I have them hung up in my office right now. But the pictures that he was showing me also, I wish that I would have met him prior to making the book, because I would have definitely have put in these pictures inside. But Hawaiian Gardens here, Licurdo Gardens then became the Hawaiian Gardens. And I'm sure maybe a lot of you, do you guys remember the Hawaiian Gardens? It was probably in the heyday in the 40s and 50s and stuff like that. And they, it was like the best entertainment destination in California between San Francisco and Los Angeles. And from what the grandson was telling me, they had the bar, the setup, and behind the bar was a door. And in that door you had to do the knock, and there would be a gentleman that would open the door for you, and then you would see the casino itself. It been raided a lot, and they would have a buzzer near the door. So when the cops came over, they would hit the buzzer, and they would try to clear out of there as quick as possible before getting caught. This next one, this picture right here, this was where the Licurdos lived during when they owned the club. It was right next to Hawaiian Gardens, so it was all on the same property. Here, this is where he manufactured his bootleg liquor. He manufactured it in the back there in the garage, and legends hold, and this was confirmed by Licurdo's grandson, as well as a niece that I met. She's in a nursing home, but 90 years old, but still sharp as a whip. She was telling me all these stories. There were tunnels going from the garage under to the next street going east, which was Little Orchard. And that's where they would pass the booze through. And there was also there was a doghouse near the house too. And there was a tunnel from under the doghouse out into the garage where all the bootleg liquor was. So that when the aunt was telling me about that, and she showed me a picture of the doghouse itself, but there was no tunnel though that you can see. But even though the story was even great. The picture right here, it's circled here, that looks familiar. That's from the cover of my book. You can see Mr. Licurdo is right here. And what was neat about this, as soon as this book came out, a lot of people were hitting me up saying that, hey, this is my great uncle, like this gentleman here, the family hit me up, the family here hit me up, and they were asking me, it's like, I don't understand, why, how are they involved in gambling? And when I told them, well, I don't know about them, but their friend here, Licurdo, was very heavily into it. And they go, oh my God, I did not know that. I remember my mother going over there to work and help out. She never told me about the gambling part. And I go, well, some people like to keep their family secret, but I think I let the cat out of the bag there. And then there's some other people who are kind of famous into the underworld part. This gentleman right here, he owned a club over on the east side. It was called the Silver Slipper. This gentleman right here, his name was Jimmy Mills. He was a professional billiards player who was who's a professional who hung out in the areas, who knew all the people who owned the clubs on West San Carlos, where a lot of these Lacurdo's clubs were. And also the clubs that Lacurdo he worked with was his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law, his name was Frank Garnacci. It's this gentleman right here. And he's also in the picture right here with the white hat on. This club right here was one of his clubs. This was called this was Frank's Club, which was on First Street between Santa Clara and St. John. This picture was taken the day Prohibition was lifted. So these gentlemen are all here celebrating. And my thing is, it's like, well, why are they celebrating? Their main course of revenue just went out the door. But here they are celebrating. And if you notice, the bar is all intact. Well, how did they do that so quick? Well, I'm assuming it was probably an illegal club at the time before going legit. I did find Mr. Garnacci's grandson who lives in Hawaii. I have yet been able to have a discussion with him, which he promised me. I am hoping to hear. He says that when he was a kid, he remembers talking in detail with his grandfather about all this stuff. So I'm extremely excited to hear what he has to say. And what else was fascinating about Mr. Garnacci is, I'm sure you guys are all aware of San Jose's history regarding the Hart department store lynching. Well, during the investigation of it, they looked into the Hart kid, and they kind of suspected, they looked at all angles on finding out who could have kidnapped them, what was the MO. One of the MOs was they thought maybe that the Hart kid had a gambling problem, a gambling addiction, because the Hart department store was right next to Post Street, and that's where all the club rooms were located. Well, during their investigation, they realized that the Hart kid had written a bounce check to Mr. Garnacci for what? I don't know. This was all documented on the book Swift Justice, which was about the lynching. But Garnacci's name in that book was misspelled. This was confirmed by the family. But during the investigation, they figured that had no connection. Garnacci had no connection, and that the Hart kid had no gambling connection regarding the card rooms on Post Street, because not only there was a shoeshine boy that they interviewed during that investigation, and this kid knew all the players. He knew everybody that was going inside these clubs, and he says he had never seen the Hart kid go into one of these clubs. So that was closed out and unfounded. And of course, you can see here is the chip. That's one of the chips that was played over at the Hawaiian Gardens, and you can see kind of his initials right there, John Lacurdo. And so, going on more in crime and corruption, Mr. Lacurdo had a partner. His name was Clarence Letty, also known as Clarence Chick Letty. This gentleman right here. He was the partner of John Lacurdo, and there was a story of where him and Lacurdo would pay $4,500 a month as protection money, because at the time, the sheriff, not the sheriff that I'm going to speak to about right here, but the other sheriff, his name was Sheriff Lyle. The district attorney's office was trying to go after him also for corruption. And so when they went and spoke with Mr. Letty, who was in prison at the time for murder over at San Quentin, they tried to get him to make a statement about the funds that he was giving was going over to Sheriff Lytle. And Letty wouldn't admit it. Says, hey, listen, I gave the money to one guy, and how he dispersed it to everybody else, I don't know. So, and he was going into a little more detail regarding the dispersion of the money and stuff like that. But he didn't get too detailed. He didn't give the names of it. So that was an interesting story to read. This gentleman right here is sheriff. His name is Sheriff Emig. He was the sheriff that was heavily involved during the whole Hart investigation and stuff like that. So you can read a lot about him in the book Swift Justice also. But he actually hit a lot of these clubs. He raided a lot. But then again, at the end, the whole thing ended up biting him in the butt, because it was found that he was arrested for conspiracy to violate the gambling law. So what he was doing was, during his raids, he would give a tip to the club, say, hey, listen, give me my percentage or I'm going to go hit your club and shut you down. So that's how he got it. And he did it along with this gentleman right here. His name was William Morgan. He was the largest distributor of slot machines in San Jose at the time. He was based on DuPont Street, which is kind of on the west side of near West San Carlos area. The area there was known as Little Tijuana due to all the illegal gambling houses there. And what made that area so popular for the illegal gambling was because it was on the border of San Jose at the time. So it was actually county jurisdiction and not San Jose jurisdiction. So the chief of police in San Jose was out and he couldn't be able to enforce those laws. Well, who was? It was the sheriff. Well, the sheriff was in on it too. And he ended up getting arrested. He only served 4 months until he got out. And even to the day he died, he denied any participation, but the evidence was there. I mean, when they searched his office during his arrest, they found ledgers of slot winnings and everything like that. But again, he still claimed his innocence. As you can see, this is Sheriff right here. This is Sheriff Lyle, who I was discussing about earlier, who the DA tried to get Chick Letty to flip on her, but they never did. And this picture right here is taken in front of the old jailhouse on First Street with their finds of slot machines during one of their raids. Now, in this picture right here, this is my favorite. This is actually the booking sheet of Emig being booked into the county jail. And what I like about it is, here's his name as the inmate, but if you look at who the acting sheriff is, it's him right up there also. So it's like his name is the sheriff and as the criminal at the same time. So as we get into the card rooms, it was about in the 1930s and 40s is when the legally licensed card rooms started to pop up. At that time, card rooms were nothing like how they are today, as just full-on casinos like Matrix and Bay 101. The card games were mostly a kind of like a little side thing for the main business itself, like it was part of a pool hall or it was part of a cigar shop or it was in the back of a bar or something like that. And right here, this club actually still exists. If you guys know, it's the West Side Billiards. It's billiard hall only. But back in the 60s, it had a card room in there. It was opened up by a gentleman named Bruno Reve. He died, and then he sold it to the current owner right now since the 80s. And so I spoke to that guy. He had no idea that all the card games and the gambling was happening in that club. And so, as you can tell, that the chips right there were the chips that were played there. They only had a card room license for about a year and a half, so it wasn't very long until how they lost it. I couldn't find any records regarding that, and that was a thing that was one of my biggest obstacles while doing this research. There's not a lot of information on these clubs. I mean, people don't document this kind of stuff. It was mostly like a hush hush type of topic. So a lot of this stuff came from word of mouth, came from the old records, as well as the old news articles over at the History San Jose and the Martin Luther King Library. They have a lot of great information on this history stuff. So that's where I was able to get most of this, but it wasn't really much, as you can tell. Here's another one in downtown San Jose. This was called the Victory Club. This was probably one of the biggest clubs at the time. It was opened up in the 50s and it lasted all the way up to the late 70s. It had the nickname the Bucket of Blood because of all the fistfights that either occurred inside or outside the club. It was one of San Jose's worst clubs. I was speaking to a lady who was a young girl living in downtown, and she would have to walk around the entire block just not to walk past that place because her mother told her don't go near there because of all the shenanigans and stuff like that. In fact, the last owner of the club lost the license because he conned a paraplegic customer in there out of $45,000 at a rigged poker game. And what happened was, after the gentleman lost the game, he went to the police saying that he was cheated, and that because the people, the money that he lost, he wasn't able to pay it all off. So when the people weren't getting paid, they started threatening him and his son. And that's when he went to the police and said, "Hey, listen, I got cheated out of this game." And when the police went over there, investigated, they ended up shutting the place down and losing this license. So that was about in the 1974, 75-ish, in that area. It was located on Market Street between Santa Clara and St. John. So the building there is torn down, so it doesn't exist there anymore. Here's another one. This one is the Diamond Wheel. This was located in Willow Glen, right off of Lincoln Avenue, kind of over near where the 280 overpass is. This is when the club started to become more of the casinos and not so much the backroom gaming establishments. This one was the interesting part about this one. One of the managers here, his name was John Meehan. I don't know if you guys ever saw that episode called Dirty John. It was on the Bravo channel. Well, anyways, it was a mini series regarding this con man. Well, this con man learned all his con fanatics from his father, who was a manager at this club. This club ended up closing in the 70s because they were unable to supply the sheriff's office with their financials and where the money was going in and out. And that was one of the protocols in order to get their license renewed, was they had to show their financial papers. And they didn't show it for whatever reason, probably because there was a lot of stuff that couldn't be shown. And that was, this was in county jurisdiction at the time. And at that time, the county was going after all the card rooms because they did not want any of these establishments open anymore. So that's how that one closed down. And this one right here, this was called the Casino Card Club. This one was located on Saratoga Avenue, right across the street from where the Garden City used to be. This one was, when I found out who the owner was, I found him on the web. I found his information on the web, and I actually called and left a message for him, and he actually replied back. He's living in Florida. And so when I told him what I was doing and stuff like that, and how I wanted to talk to him about the club, he became really standoffish and says, "No, I want to say no. I'm not saying anything. Nothing happened. I had nothing to do. My club had nothing to do with Garden City closing me down, and I had to stop." I go, whoa. Whatever you think I'm going to do, I'm not here to investigate or get anybody in trouble. I just want to know about your club. And once we had the rapport and started talking a little more, he opened up, and we became friends ever since. I call him, he calls me, and so this was some of the stuff that he supplied for me. This is the gentleman right here. His name is Daniel Yeargame. He had a lot of experience with running poker clubs because his father had one in downtown called Joe's Club. So Joseph Yeargame, and I'll be talking about that club a little bit later. But here's the gaming guide. This club was one of the first clubs that actually was kind of fancy. It was clean tables, the clean, establishment, because a lot of these other card rooms, especially like the ones on Post Street downtown, these were like run down, dirty type places. They mostly attracted kind of like the Skid Row type people. And so this club was like one of the first that would actually go kind of like get around that. They were more of the classier place, trying to attract the classier people. But this place had its same problems as all the other card rooms, with the cheaters and stuff like that, and the fencing of stolen property. And we'll move on from that. But I couldn't, again, a lot of people wouldn't talk about that stuff. They say, "We'll talk about the club." I'm not going to talk about anything else. I don't know if it's because they knew I was a cop and they thought they'd get in trouble, but took a lot of convincing to tell them otherwise. And here are some of the other small time card clubs that were in downtown San Jose. Top left one right here. This one was called the Cozy Club. It was owned by a gentleman named last of San Filippo. How he got a license, I don't know, because prior to him opening up his club, this was back in the 40s or 50s, he was known as a bookmaker. He got into a lot of trouble for booking horse races and sports, and he had a partner named Salvador Trompador, who himself was the same thing. But once the city caught on and knew about his criminal past, which I don't understand how they didn't know it in the first place, the chief went to him and said, hey, you need to turn in your license. Well, he then transferred the license over to his wife, and the club continued under his wife's supervision for just a few more months, and then the club ended up shutting down for reasons unknown. This one right here, this building right here, it's still there. It's the old YMCA building, but if you look right over there near there, that's the 114 club. That was also a very small club. It got shut down because of the illegal games that they were having in there. Also, when these clubs only were allowed to play 3 types of games. It was Pan, which is a type of poker. I don't know how to play it, but it's called Pan. There's another one, poker game called Low Ball, and then there was the regular poker, 5-card poker. Those are the only games that these places were allowed to play. Why they were considered legal to play was because there was no house involved. It was strictly it was a game on skill and not a game of chance, and so that's why these games were legal in California. This club right here, Club 55. This club right here was located on San Carlos Street. Well, if you guys are familiar with downtown, you guys know where Original Joe's is. Well, there's a big parking lot right across the street near the kind of near the Fairmont, or across the street also from the St. Clair Club or hotel. It was a building that was located right there. And when this club opened, it originally had its license denied by the city, but the club owners insisted that it would be a classy joint by attracting the people from the St. Clair Hotel, because I guess that was the biggest place to be. It was issued, but it was only a club. It went through several owners, didn't make much money, and it ended up closing a few years later. This club right here, this is the Saratoga Club. This was also located right near the Casino Card Club. It was like a few doors down. So a lot of these clubs didn't stay open long because they had a lot of competition. So that was that one. This one, the L&M Silver Dollar, that was located on Market Street, right near Post. And there's the chips for the 55 Club. And I'm going to go a little faster for you guys. And then the Flamingo Club, that was located on Stockton Street over on the Alameda, kind of near the Alameda side, over Alameda and Stockton Avenue, right near in that area. So before I go on, does anybody have any questions so far or any comments? Yeah, go ahead, Allison.
Yeah, I'm curious, how many casinos, card rooms, card clubs were in operation at one time at the height of?
At the height, it was in the 1940s. It was the top number was 19 clubs, and it was at that time when the city started becoming fed up with all these clubs and the problems they were causing, they reduced it to 15. They kept it at 15 until then they passed a rule where, okay, everybody who has a club, you can only continue the club until either you go out of business or the owner dies. There's going to be no transfer of the license or the sale of the clubs. That's what started the dwindling down of all the clubs in either San Jose or downtown San Jose, which was most of them. And so, and how Garden City and Bay 101 were able to keep that was the San Jose enacted a law saying that, well, if you incorporate your card room, then you can pass the incorporation, I guess, stocks of the corporation off to someone else. So that's how Garden City was able to go around that law. In Bay 101, they were, which I'll talk about later, they were able to go around it was because they purchased the license from a club over in Alviso called Sutter's Club. And since when that club got got torn down because the land was taken by the state when they widened 237. Bay 101 bought it in, and Alviso was now part of San Jose. They were able to pull that license and transfer it over to San Jose, and they changed the name over to Bay 101. How about that? Any other questions right now?
Well, you just answered mine.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna ask about Sutters.
Oh, okay. I'll talk about that in a little bit also. Let's see. This was Tony's Pool Hall. This one's interesting. This was the last club to close down. The third to last. The only two remaining right now are still open, but this was the last one to close. This was a very, it closed in 92. It was owned by Tony Cirillo, whose father opened up the place in the 1920s. And then when Tony Jr. here, or when Tony's got back from World War II, he took it over from his father from the 40s up until the time the place closed down in 92. It only had one table in there, and that was kind of its downfall. I mean, the city, basically, I always thought the city screwed him because he ended up being able to incorporate Tony's Pool Hall as the Cirillo Palace, but they wouldn't let him move. Like they let Garden City move, or they let Alviso or the Alviso Club over to as Bay 101. And it was basically because I read an article regarding Tony's attorney, and it was because that he didn't have a lot of money and a lot of juice like the big clubs did, like Garden City had. And you know what? And the lawyer made a good comment, said, if you're not greasing the right palms, you're not going to get anywhere in this city. So basically, he had to end up shutting the club because he was not going. He was not to his dismay, or he didn't do this on purpose, but in order to have the card club, you had to keep it continuously open. Well, he only had one table, so it's not like he can keep the card club or the card table open all the time. And so the city used that as an excuse to go ahead and yank his permit because they wanted to get, like I said, get rid of all the clubs. I like this one right here. This is the Growers Market, which was, Valley of the Heart's Delight. This is where all the people came over and sold their produce and stuff like that. Well, there was a club here. It was called the Growers Club. I was unable to find a picture of the club itself. This is just of the market. But this was a place where the people who sold their stuff, and I guess they made a few bucks and decided to see if they can gamble it and make a little more. That club ended up changing names and became the Fisher Clubhouse in the 60s. And ended up shutting down for reasons unknown. Here's another one. This was the Miracle Mile. This one was owned by a gentleman who owned a few card clubs. His name was Marco Trapani. He actually was one of the owners of Bay 101 until he passed away. But he owned that. He owned the Miracle Mile. He owned part of Bay 101, but he also owned clubs like one in Palo Alto called the Cameo Club. He also owned one in Santa Clara, was called the Comstock. So this guy was pretty well known regarding running these card rooms. And he also had a reputation of other things, but since I couldn't find any information regarding that, I wasn't going to put it in my book. Unfair to him. I like to get my stories confirmed before I put it in the book. See the next one. Here's where we talk about Post Street. It was originally called El Dorado, but the people thought it had such a shady reputation back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Was so bad. Well, they figured, well, maybe if we change the street name, we can get rid of that reputation. Did not. Once it became Post Street, in 1907 or 1909, it continued its old ways. You know, it had a lot of gambling, illegal and legal. It had its prostitution. It had its bootleg bars and during Prohibition. Which this picture right here. This is a picture right here of one of San Jose's oldest buildings, and this is where there was bootlegging. There was actually an illegal Chinese lottery casino in the back, and down through the legal card room times, they were lined up with different type of clubs. And if I can remember right, this picture over here, you can see some of those club signs. Like right here is the Rex Club. And right here is the Lucky Club. And to name off just other clubs that were on Post Street, not all at the same time. Some of them, you know, changed names, or one would close down, the other one would open. But you have the Rex here, then you have the Lucky Club. You had there was the 31 Club, there was the Dixie Club, there was the Bonanza, there was the Post, there was Joe's Club, there was the old Garden City before it moved to Saratoga. There was an illegal club there called the Bank Club. And there was another illegal club on there called the Pastime Club. I have the chips from most of these clubs, but the information I was unable to find regarding what they consist of, what they look like. I have a few news articles like regarding the Bank Club in the 30s, how that one was raided, only due to the fact was because of all the shady characters that would hang out there. I guess there was a burglary at a dentist shop a few doors down from that club. And so they raided the club to try to find suspects and information regarding the burglary of that dentist office. Okay, this is Post Street back in the 1950s here. And here is an older, as you can see, the boxed area, I mean, you really have to look closely, but this was the only photo that I can find of the 31 Club and the Dixie Club. If you can look really, if you guys have great eyesight, if you can notice it way down over there, you can see the signs, 31 Club and the Dixie Club. And where the sign where it says Optimo Cigars, that was where the Alonji cigar shop was that you saw the photo earlier today. And okay, there's the chips from the 31 Club there. And these were the same chips that were played over at Tony's Pool Hall too. They used those chips. Okay, here's Post Street right here. This kind of gives you an idea of all the clientele that used to hang out on Post Street during the time. The card club that you see in the background there, that's Joe's Club. And if you look, the gentleman right here, if you look right above his head, you can see part of the sign where it says the Bonanza. So that was one of the many clubs that were on in San Jose at the time. The Lucky Club that I mentioned earlier, this is a couple of their matchbooks and the chips that were played over at the time. And let's see, here are the Rex Club. Here's another view from the picture that I showed you earlier. This was kind of neat because as soon as I published this book, one of my coworkers came to me and says, you know what, my grandfather owned that club. And so it's like, well, I wish I would have found you earlier today. Before writing this book, I would have gotten a lot more information. But nonetheless, the story said he did tell me about his grandfather opening it up, and his last name was Silva. I couldn't remember what his first name was. But when that club closed down, it became the Golden Horseshoe. I don't know if it was the same owner. I knew nothing about this club other than what I see in this picture. That was the only thing. And let's see.
Sounds like to write a second, it sounds like you need to write a second edition with
a lot of people have been asking me, were asking me about that. I go, well, you're finding out all this information afterwards. You know what? And I knew that was going to happen because when I was doing my research on this, I was hitting up like these Facebook history groups and stuff. Like, hey, does anybody know anything about these old card clubs? Anybody tell me anything? Most of the time it was crickets, or if they would tell me, it was stuff that I already knew, like with the common clubs, like Garden City and stuff like that. And of course, when the book came out, these people start going, oh, I remember this club. I remember this club. I go, oh, well, thanks a lot. I was trying to ask you earlier, but you guys didn't seem to answer my request. But regardless, but I thought about writing a second one. But if you ask my wife and the time it took me to write this one, I don't know if I would get the okay on that. But here's another one, the Rainbow Club. That was also on Post Street. Again, not much information on it other than what you see here. This building right here, the Myth, that's what it looks like today. But in the time, it was the Hilo Club that became the Bonanza. And after the Bonanza, it became the Post. All the same owners. Well, the Bonanza and the Post were the same owners. The Hilo was under somebody else. It was funny with the Bonanza was this club was owned by a lady. Her name was Inez Atkins. She was the first female to own and run one of these card clubs in San Jose. She came from another. She came from managing another club in Santa, which was called Club Fortune. That was located on what was that? 3rd Street. Yeah, 3rd Street and Santa Clara. But she bought the Bonanza and then she closed it down to fix it up to open it as the Post. Well, as soon as she opened the Post, the city went after her saying, hey, you couldn't have closed it down. That's not part of the regulations or in the title regarding owning your card club. And the city yanked her license. She spent tons of money fixing up this thing, and she ended up losing it. Next one here. Here's Joe's club. This Joe Yeargain, like I talked about his son earlier today. This was one of the bigger clubs downtown. It had 10 tables at the time, and that was considered big because Garden City, which was right across the street at the time, it had 10 tables also. So those were the 2 biggest clubs there. And it was owned by Joe Yeargain. He was a very shady character himself. His place has been rated for violations of the of the gaming laws. He used fixed players, fixed poker games. There was even a rumor that he used to hide up in the roof rafters and look at the card games and passing on the information of the cards that he was spying on to the other players off the table. That was rumored. That was never proven, but I've heard that story from a couple people. But again, they also didn't have it confirmed. But this club it opened up in the 50s, closed down in 1984, 85-ish, when it was located in the Sonoma building right here. The building's still there. It was renovated. It was one of the only buildings that still survived because the city of San Jose, unlike you guys in Milpitas, they don't like to preserve their history, or it seems like it. The city's not very history friendly, and so they ended up tearing down a lot of these buildings and that these card clubs were in. So that's that. Let's go talk about the social clubs and the private clubs, which were I'm sure all of you guys know what Lou Village was, correct? Well, back in the 50s, they had a gaming license. They had a card room license, but they only used it for their private events and stuff like that, or the elites. There was a store. The owner of Lou's Village, or the last owner, told me that the chief of police at the time was known to go over there to play cards. It was a back room type of deal. I have no further information. I don't know what it looked like at the time, but as you can see, these were the chips that were played there. And also the St. Clair Club. If you guys are history buffs, I'm sure you guys know it's still there. It's one of California's second oldest men's club, gentleman club. And they had both legal and illegal gambling there. The legal gambling was between its members. They would play poker, and a chip you can see right there. But during Prohibition, they were known for hiding, their drinks over in the basement for its members and stuff like that. And they also had slot machines inside. And if you look at this picture here of the bar over at the St. Clair, if you look in the reflection of the window or the mirror here, you can see this gentleman right here playing a game of slot machine. So if you can see that. So that was the only image that I can find regarding that, of course. But they thought they can hide it, but I found it on there. So that's, and here's an interesting fact right here. Here's the Deer Dawn train station in downtown San Jose. That's still there. Well, in the 1950s, they had a train car that went from Monterey through San Jose to San Francisco. In one of those train cars, they had poker games going. It was called the Monterey Transit Center, the MTC. And these were the chips that were played there. And of course, the Elks Lodge, as you know, they had their games there too. They had a license. The other card rooms used to complain to the city, saying that the city would never go and hassle the Elks room card license and they would always go after them. So, well, the Elks Club, they know who their players were. They were only their members. So that's why the city really didn't have to crack down as much, is because the Elks were mostly, policing themselves through their membership. And this one is the Filipino Community Center. That was the fourth last one. That was the one that closed down right before Tony's Pool Hall. This is located in Japantown. My book was actually my original plan was to have an entire chapter on gambling in Japantown, because there was a lot of licensed card rooms in Japantown. There was the DC card room, which is the only one in my book, but they had the 616 Club, they had the Far East Social Club, they had the Dragon Club. But the problem was I couldn't find any other information on this. And so since I couldn't find information, I couldn't find pictures, anything, I just couldn't put it in my book. But out of the few I did, the Filipino Community Center was one of them. They weren't actually considered a club or a card room. They only acquired a card license was because they were having these rummy games that were lasting like 12 hours and they were attracting the police a lot. So they figured, well, if we got a license to play, that we wouldn't get hassled so much. So they had their license, then they let it forfeit because they weren't using it much. Then they tried to get it back and the city denied it. The VFW Hall, you can see the location of 430 South 4th Street. Well, they applied for a license to operate at 21 North 3rd Street. And it was the VFW Hall. You can see their chip right there. But then the following year, it became the Fortune Club. And that was ran by that same gal, Inez Adkins. Why it switched over real quick, I don't know. But doing my research, I realized in the city of Gardena, their VFW Hall operated a card room called the Fortune Club. So I don't know if they did the same thing. Maybe they didn't want the VFW name associated with gambling, but the proceeds were going to it. I have no idea why they changed the name, but they did change it to the Fortune Club, which lasted a couple more years until it shut down. And all right, here we go. Sutters and Bay 101. This is what we're talking about. And Mr. Santos, if I skip anything, please jump in and tell me what else you knew. Mr. Santos, him and his brother helped me with some of the information regarding some of the clubs that occurred in Alviso. And again, Richard, thank you very much for supplying some of that information. But here we go. This is Sutter's Club, opened up in their early 20s. It originally was called the Panama. Opened up by Joe Sutter Sr., who was located here on the center, the tall gentleman right here, who eventually passed down to Joe Sutter Jr., who's the little boy right here. This was located in Alviso at the time, right off Old Bayshore Highway and 237. This was one of the most popular clubs down there. This probably one of the most popular clubs in your guys' city too, because a lot of the people from the Milpitas area would be playing over at these clubs. It wasn't until Joe Sutter Jr. took over the club right after World War II. And it wasn't until probably the 60s is when he added the card tables. He added 5, changing it from Sutter's Place to the Sutter's Card Lounge. But these were some early photos. I got these photos from Joe Sutter Jr.'s daughter, who lives over who today lives in Gilroy. So she supplied me these great photos because, like I said, finding photos of these places was the most difficult part of my research, and the very few that she gave me was a big help. And here's a couple of the photos that she gave me right here. So the center photo here is when it was the Panama Club, but then later on became Sutter's Club. And if you can notice on the left-hand side where it says Sutter's Place, that was the bar itself. And on the right-hand side, that was the residence of where the Sutters lived. Later on, you can see the transformation in it. It became focused more as a card room rather than just a bar. Here you can see this picture taken here in the later years. Sutter's daughter gave me this photo here of Joe Sutter Jr. at the time when he was working at the club. It was 1962, so that was probably a time when the place first got its card tables. And here are the chips that were played there, and here's a matchbook from the place. Sutter's Lounge, Sutter's Club, had a bunch of different nicknames. And so here's the final picture of the club right before they tore it down. So that was I wish I could have been able to see this place before, but knowing me, I didn't even know of its existence by the time it was closed down. So that's there. And so back in '92 is when Sutter's, Joe Sutter found some partners, as you might say. It was the Bum family. The Bum family is the family that also owns the flea market, the Berryessa flea market, and all that land where the Berryessa, the BART station is. So very wealthy. Them, as well as Marco Trapani, who I mentioned, bought 51% stake of Sutter's license because they knew that Sutter's was going to have to be demolished or have to move because of the widening of Highway 237. And so when they bought their share and moved out, they transferred and became Bay 101. But on the gaming license itself, it still says Sutter's Inc. So because it was incorporated as Sutter's, that was for them to be able to move. So it became Bay 101, which was located on Bering Drive. I'm sure all of you guys can remember. I took this picture in the center here right at the time they closed down. So as soon as everybody left and I was still with the gaming division, and so I had to make sure I had to monitor the transfer of the license from their old club to the new club where they're at right now. So as soon as they got everything ready to go, before they turned off the lights and stuff, I made sure I took a picture, and because I kind of had the idea that I knew I was going to do possibly write a book on the research, so I took as many pictures as I could. And so there's that, and this, as you can. Right, this picture right here, it was the steakhouse in Bay 101, and why I'm showing it is because you see it says Marco's. That was because of Marco Trapani. Then it had the coffee shop. It had Sutter's, due to formerly being Sutter's Club. Let's see. And this is what the Bay 101. I don't know if any of you guys been to Bay 101 now, but this is what it looks like right here. It was back in 2017. So same owners, just a different location, still owned by the Bum family. Of course, it's not owned by Marco Trapani, nor the Sutters have any interest or stake in it anymore. It's owned entirely by the Bum family, as well as their general manager, whose name is Rob Warner. He owns probably about 12%, and he also works as their attorney too. So that's the Bay 101. Any questions? Anything I missed? Anything?
I have a question, Sam. Can you hear me? Is it okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
I came home from shopping one day on Grand Teton Drive near St. Elizabeth's Church, across from the priest's house there, and the FBI was swarming the place there, and they took out a man, and one of them told me had to do with the Bay 101 Club, and they had been roughing someone up who owed the money, I guess, and why they were being pulled out. So I guess Milpitas must have some family that's part of this Bay 101.
Well, I think Bum family are from I can't
must have been them then.
But I do know that back in the would this probably be in the mid-90s?
No, could have been.
Okay, because I knew that Bay 101 was really being investigated for loan sharks at that time. They had a huge problem regarding that, and I did know that they took a major hit. And regarding their license and fine because of that. So maybe that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty exciting. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You got it. Okay, and I think the next one is. Okay, next. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I have a confession to make.
Oh, okay.
I spent way too much time out at Sutter's.
What's that?
I spent way too much time out at Sutter's. And
What'd you think of the club?
Well, my time back there was in the early 80s.
Okay.
I was working a job at Lockheed on swing shift, and coming home down the freeway, the lights kind of drew me in like a moth to the flame.
Right.
And but I do have to say, there were some pretty good sorts of people out there, and had a lot of fun, and it was kind of harmless. It was just like $2 limit stuff, and
Right. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't no like big time whales going in there to gamble. It was just guys playing poker. If they weren't playing at home, they were playing at these
and
clubs.
they all worked on a night crew of some sort, either with the railroad or some other thing,
And I heard the food was delicious too.
Yeah. Well, I did hear a rumor once. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard a rumor that somebody stole the safe from Sutter's.
Oh no, yeah.
Well, they were chasing him in the car. He stopped on the Dumbarton Bridge, and him and his associate threw it out of the car over the bridge into the water.
Oh jeez.
It's still.
It was probably still there.
I don't know if it's true or not, but that was the rumor.
What was the overall? What did it look like inside the club?
It was actually pretty bright, and
Okay.
had little light paneling walls and chandeliers in the ceiling. The tables were real clean, and the chairs were really padded, and it didn't smell like an old beer bar or anything like that. It was really a really nice place inside.
Okay.
And I had a lot of fun inside that place in the middle of the night.
Are you still in touch with any of the people that were there,
no,
stuff
no.
like that? No.
I was just a child back then. I just turned 21, and
Oh yeah, okay.
and yeah. So
Because I was really hoping to find an interior picture, but
I did play a little
nothing.
bit at the casino there on Saratoga back in the day too, and that place was packed. It was
Which one?
The casino that was across from Garden City.
Oh, the Casino Card Club.
The
Yeah.
original one that was there. And
Uh-huh.
that place was packed. It was a waiting list to get on a table.
Oh wow.
Every night of the week.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Any other comments, questions? Yep. Oh, go ahead, Catherine.
Yeah, I have great memories of going there only for the food for brunch. We called it our low life breakfast, and they just had wonderful food. They had great
Was it
hash
Sutter's
browns.
also?
This was the old
Okay.
Sutter's.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. I love hearing the stories. Because from the few people that I've talked to, they mentioned the food was great there.
Yeah. Wonderful breakfast.
All right. Thanks, Catherine. All right, well, we can go on to the next big casino that's still left. And as you can see, it started off as Garden City. This is the location that was on the corner of Post and Market. The building's not there right now. It's, if you guys are familiar with downtown San Jose, this is where that big gold building is. So that's where this place is located. Opened up originally as just a billiard hall by the Boitano family, and I want to say probably the 1930s. Here they are right here, the both brothers. The center one here, the very center is one brother. I don't have their hands off name, and then the other brothers here with playing the cards with the cigar. Go figure. Nice photo of it. They're very known for as one of the many popular billiard halls in San Jose. As you see, here's some of the here's the matchbook right here from the center, and then these are the little tokens that gave the credits and stuff like that. A lot of this information I received from the son of the gentleman here with the cigar. When I did research, I found him. He's still living in San Jose, and he gave me a lot of information and stuff like that. And we're still talking since. A real great guy. And I did find out they are related to the Olympian Brian Partano. It's like their second cousin or something like that. So, because I was asking about that, because I knew the Boitano name was from San Jose or from this area, and there is a relation there. All right. So back in right prior to
Actually,
I'm sorry.
Actually, I'll say Brian Boitano lived in Sunnyvale. He grew up near me. We went to school together.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
actually, you noticed the studio behind me. I did all of his music from the 80s on.
Oh, right. There you go. Small world.
Yeah.
Excellent. So back to this. Back in the right after World War II, the Boitanos, the two brothers, they wanted out of the billiard hall business because when they were doing their billiard hall, they were also selling billiard equipment. So they wanted to just focus on the billiard equipment business and get out of the pool hall. So their three nephews, the Dallas brothers here, they came when they got back from World War II. The Boitanos gave them an offer they couldn't refuse, basically, to take over and run or to buy out the billiard hall, and which they did. And so they ran the billiard hall for a while, and then later on, probably in the late 50s, they purchased one of the gaming license from one of the clubs on Post Street that closed down. They bought it for a total of $600 at the time. Well, if you think about it, that same license, which Casino Matrix makes right now, it's been worth $100 million. So from $600 to $100 million and what is it, 70 years? That's great interest rate right there. So here are the three brothers right here. The Dallases, they are all, that name sounds familiar also. Their sister, I think her first name was Yvonne. She was an opera singer. And she also
Irene.
Irene, that's it. Yes, thank you. She also taught opera over at San Jose State and started the San Jose Opera. So and here's a picture right here when this is as soon as, let me go back, as soon as the Dallas brothers opened up the card room, the billiard hall and stuff like that, they closed down the whole place for remodel. And so on the Market Street side, it became the Garden City Hofbräu, which was one of the most popular restaurants in downtown San Jose at the time, that and Original Joe's. And then in the back was the Card Club. And in this picture right here, is you can see the back of it. They had a side back entrance to the club. You can get in through the Card Club through the restaurant also, but you can also get in through the side here. And the building going a little more back here, that's where the Boitanos had their billiard equipment business. Okay, here you can see the opening of the Garden City Hofbräu. Have any of you guys ate there at the time? Yes. Okay.
Dick Santos ate there many times. Yes.
Good food, I guess, right?
Wonderful.
Yes, that's the whole. They were known for having the meat hanging in the window on the rotisserie spinning around.
Gary Rove was the manager. He passed away when we were all the same
He
age.
just passed away. Yes. And so, did you know Gary?
I knew him well.
Okay. Yeah. In fact, he helped me with this book. You'll see him in the acknowledgments and stuff like that. Him and his wife Lynn. So yeah, when I had just found him, I went over to his house. He showed me a bunch of stuff. He gave me a lot of mementos, not only from Garden City, but also some other clubs too. And so, and then we were supposed to get together another time to discuss more stuff. And that's when he got sick and ended up passing away. So that was a little disheartening and stuff. But he was a nice guy from what the stuff he did give me. So here at the Garden City has the Hofbräu. The picture right here with all the people here, that was opening night. Became very popular. Let's see. Here are the owners. the three brothers, 1 and 2, the third one, when he ended up passing away, the two brothers on each side here ended up taking over the business. It was later on, they decided they were getting too old for the day-to-day operations. They went to their deceased brother's son, Nick, right here, to take over the day-to-day operations. And when he did, he kind of like transformed the card room from basically a secondary type of business to its primary. And he was the one who actually started setting up to have it moved to the Saratoga location. Let's see. That's the Saratoga location right there, right before they closed down. In fact, the sign right there is still there, and the building is still there. But of course, developers are starting to salivate over the location, so it should be any time before they demolish this building. And as you know, going back here, Nick Jr. here, he ended up losing the club itself back in the early 90s from skimming. So he was skimming, and his two uncles here were also involved, and they all got convicted. And part of the settlement was that they had to sell out the club. So they ended up selling off the club to, again, I can't remember the guy's name. He ran the club until it went bankrupt, which was back probably in 2000-ish, 2002. And so it was being controlled by the bank's trust until 2007 when the new owners came in. We'll discuss that in just a second. But here are the chips throughout the years that were played at Garden City. Here's it at the beginning and throughout its time, how it's changed throughout the years. And right before this last section right here is the last chips they used before they became Casino Matrix. So back in 2007, the club Garden City was bought by partners. Right here is the Lenardi couple here, and Pete Lenardi and Janine Lenardi. No relation to the supermarket chain. That's one question people always ask. Oh, are they the ones who own the supermarket? No, not at all. By them and this gentleman right here, his name is Eric Swallow. They bought the club for $24 million back in 2007, which obviously they got a great return on their club. And here's a picture of them when they first bought it. There's Pete. There's Eric Swallow. This was their casino manager. His name was Scott Hayden. He ended up skipping town when Casino Matrix got in trouble for all of the shenanigans that I'll talk about it a little more. As soon as the heat was being turned on, he disappeared. And last time we heard, he was living in Central America. So I don't know. And this guy right here, his name was Bob Lytle. Funny thing is, he was California's gaming enforcement chief. So he was in charge of enforcing all the gaming laws and stuff like that regarding all the card rooms and the tribal stuff in California. Well, as soon as he retired, he got a job as the compliance manager at Garden City. Well, he ended up getting in trouble for doing that, because what happened was they found out that before he retired, he was negotiating a deal as becoming their compliance officer with Garden City. Well, before he left the gaming enforcement team, all the pending suits that were on Garden City for some of the violations that they did were all dropped. And so when they found that out, and they found out that he was applying for the job at the same time, they actually busted him. They actually arrested him, and he was convicted. And part of his conviction is he can never be in the gaming business ever again. So he got in trouble for that. And as you guys know, back in 2012, let's go back. As soon as it was 2007, 2012, they moved from Garden City and became Casino Matrix. Back in 2014, right here, this owner right here, is Eric Swallow. He got in trouble with the state for being involved in banking the casino games. Now, so this is probably a topic that I would have to discuss with you guys about what a third-party corporation is and how they're involved regarding banking the games that are being played right now, like blackjack and stuff like that. Well, this third party cannot have any association with ownership, because in order to own the club, the only way you make money is through the table fees. Okay, you cannot have any stake in the action of the game. Well, the third party was secretly owned by him, and it was found out. And when it was found out, they ended up taking the club from him. He had to sell out. He sold it to his second investor, who he was involved, but since he was very cooperative with it, other than the state decided they would let him keep his license, and so he was able to buy out his partner Eric Swallow here, because Eric was forced by the state to sell out. And so, but now Pete, he passed away a few years ago of cancer, so it's owned by his wife, and now Pete's son is running the club also. And they sold like 30% of the club to a different investor to offset some of the payments and the bills that it cost, because when they bought it from Eric Swallow, they couldn't afford the whole payment of the half, so they brought in a second party to own it. But instead of a 50-50, they now own 70%. So even though they have a partner, they still have full control of the club, in which they continue to do today. So any questions about Garden City Casino Matrix? Nothing. Oh, if you're talking, you're on mute. If anybody's talking, they're on mute. No? Okay.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I gotta say the city makes an awful lot of money off of these gaming.
They make $16 million just on the table taxes a year itself.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is that to play you got to pay time, and that's all goes to the city. It's every half hour you got to pay, like, you know,
No. You have to pay every game. You, like, if you're sitting at a game, you want to play blackjack, you make your bet before the cards even dealt. You got to put $1 in front of you.
Gotcha.
And so
I remember back in the day, I used to play lowball. Every 30 minutes they came by and collected like $3 from you.
That was like in the early day. They would pay by time, but now they pay by hand. So if you want to play a hand, you pay $1. So think about that.
Yeah.
You got 8 seats.
The higher the action, the more tax you paid. I was on the low limit table, so it was only a few dollars, but I can imagine some of these guys were paying these $50, $100 limit tables.
Right, but like I said, they don't get a percentage of what's being bet. They only get percentage of the table drop. So the city right now collects 30% of the table drop, and that's 30% net. So as soon as that 100% is dropped, the city will take its 30, and then the club can take the 70 and then pay their bills and stuff like that or whatever. So the city's basically a 30% partner.
Before Garden City closed, man, there must have been 40, 45 tables in there.
There was 40.
Yeah.
And now it's 49, and they just upped it now to 65 each.
And so the amount of, like I say, the amount of revenue that the city was generating, just the city, for that tax on the table. Oh, it's in the millions and tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And
$60 million a year.
It's all that money being tossed around. It's kind of hard to imagine that a city would really come down heavy-handed on these guys.
Well, they're not. They're giving the image as anti-gambling, but then they're like kind of like going, "Oh, come on, here." Of course, they don't want to admit that, that's kind of like political suicide. I'm pro-gambling, but it's a sign of the times. I mean, it's as long as you regulate it and control it, there's nothing wrong with it.
So that's just one casino. So if you got 3, 4, 5 casinos in town,
we'll have 2 and 2 only, and the state doesn't issue any more of them, any more of the license.
Close to $100 million a year in revenue.
Right.
That's my gosh. All right. Well, thank you.
All right, you got it. Just by the way, these 2 card clubs is the city's largest tax revenue. So this is the company, they get the most taxes from these clubs than from any other business in San Jose. And that's including, all these like eBay, the car dealerships, everything like that. So that's how much money these places make. So, and this look on the left-hand side, these are the current owners of Matrix. There's Janine Lenardi in the front there. Her son, just on the right, the tall guy. And then her daughter on the left with her husband. And then the gentleman on the far with the blue blazer, that's his name is Patrick Tierney, and he's the 30% owner of the club. And I like to put this picture under because this is the third generation Boitanos, right there in the center with the blue shirt. And they're still in the billiard business. So they own a billiard company or equipment business in Southern California. So I thought I'd put that in there for them. So since the Boitanos are still continuing the old family business. All right. And as for the Division of Gaming Control, I put in there, that's the unit that I was working for. Again, we work directly out of the chief's office. It's actually it was run by a civilian who was a retired Nevada gaming control agent. So this guy had the best knowledge of this business. In fact, I just talked to him last week, and he said that he was asked by the governor's office to sit on the board, the gaming commission. But he says, nah, I'm done with this. And why would I want to come back to California anyways? Because he's now living back in Nevada. So his name was Richard Tang. He's a great friend, great mentor. He knew the business, and he helped create this division, which helped the city generate that large tax revenue. So, and I believe that is it. So, yes. Hope you guys are still up.
Through the chair, Mr. Ramos, you did a fantastic job. That's about our history and it's part of a culture. And
yes.
I'm glad you recaptured that. You did a great job.
Thank you so much. You know what? And I am still doing research. I'm still finding more stuff. And please, if any of you guys know anybody or that knows or has any kind of pictures or mementos, please send them my email. I'd love to talk with them and meet with them and collect all this stuff, because my overall, I have chips from most, if not all of these clubs. I've got the matchbooks, the ashtrays, everything. And my goal is to have all this stuff displayed in like maybe one of the card rooms. I'm gonna say, hey, if you guys supply the display cabinets, I would love to display all this stuff in there for them. So hopefully I'll be able to do that. So I'm still looking for more mementos.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That was just wonderful.
Yes, no problem.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions? Anybody want to buy some books?
Well,
I'll
like
be
I
buying a
said,
book.
hit me up on the email and I can hook you up.
Okay. Does everybody have the email? Do we want to put in the chat box?
Yeah, let me see.
So I didn't realize that you were going to be focused primarily on casinos and card rooms. The one piece of gambling history that I'm aware of for San Jose happened in the 1970s at the height of the Vietnam War protest era. The Unitarian Church in downtown San Jose was quite vocal in its being against the war, and they were attracting, negative attention. And they were having a church fundraiser where they had raffle tickets, and somebody from the San Jose police went undercover, and they had a sign, suggested donations. But when the undercover officer went up to the gal that was selling raffle tickets and said how much, she gave him a number, and they shut them down.
Oh.
And they went to court over it. And one day the lawyer was standing talking to somebody from the church out on the church steps, right across from St. James Park. And, the Pelizzaris may know this story already, right? Yeah. Somebody stole the briefcase. The lawyer had put their briefcase down, and when they turned around to pick it up again, it was gone.
Oh, geez. Uh-oh.
But I don't remember how the case turned out. Do you know the rest of the story, Catherine?
You're
You're
muted.
muted,
Oh,
Catherine.
okay, I'm sorry. There we go. No, this is the first time I've heard this.
You're muted.
Yeah, but I do know, since you're talking about undercovers, that happened over at Joe's Club. The police department sent in a undercover officer to work at Joe's Club. So first he went in there and to what?
Oh, no, we're just helping Catherine and Mike unmute.
Oh, okay.
Bottom left corner.
I was like, I think I'm unmuted. Well, anyways, they sent the guy in there to start gambling, to be known by all the regular players and stuff. They got to like him. The club ended up hiring him as a cashier. He was working over a year at cashier, and he was watching all the illegal activities that was happening over there, the cheating, the skimming, the drug dealing and stuff like that. And as soon as he was able to gain enough information, they went in there and raided and shut the place down temporarily. And that was Joe's Club downtown. That was done in the late 70s.
Well, it happened to the Unitarian Church too. It seemed like small potatoes, but they assumed that it happened because they were on the outs politically.
Yeah, the case was dropped. They didn't end up suffering from it, but they had to go to court.
Even though, I mean, believe it or not, gambling laws, they're all misdemeanors. None of them are felonies. So that's one of San Jose's huge problems right now is, a lot of these Vietnamese coffee houses and stuff, they have those gaming machines in there. And, when they ended up getting, popped for one, which is tough because they're all over the place, they're just cited out and they have their day in court, and that's it. Just pay a fine and off they go.
I remember back in the day, somebody would, during football season, somebody would always bring in the card, with all the over and unders and it seemed very innocent at the time, but honestly, that's the seed. That's how it gets started. You get, there was several businesses I know where they ran these programs out of bars and different things, but they shut them down when they caught them. They shut them down.
Yeah, there was other bars in San Jose that got in trouble for sports bookmaking, and clubs. I mean, bars that are still open now, like the Caravan Lounge. That was back in the early 70s and stuff.
Yeah,
they were known for having that.
That got caught was in Sunnyvale. It was called Duke's right there on the El Camino and Wolf or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And they shut him down for that. Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay.
Hey, Richard, do you remember? Do you remember or want to talk about any of the clubs that were in Alviso?
I remember what, please?
Do you want to talk about any, or do you remember any of the clubs that were in Alviso?
Oh, it would take another hour. I sure do. I grew up, just by being there.
I think he's sworn
we
to
owned the buildings. We never had any gambling, but it was a very exciting time, and it's a different time. And they used to give for our softball and little league and different things. But anyway, that's a whole new chapter. But thank you for so much for reminiscing. It was great.
Oh, thanks. So, you know what? I do want to tell you, I don't know if you or your brother found out, but I did make a mistake on when I talked about when I put the address of Popeyes, I put 1220 Taylor Street, which wasn't true. It was 1220 Elizabeth or something like that. It's in my book, but
during that time it was Taylor Street because my folks lived on 1522. It was Taylor Street.
Oh, it was. Okay.
It made it First Street.
Gotcha.
And Taylor Street still exists in Alviso, it's just a block long.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, 1210 Taylor Street. Yeah, okay, that's it. Yeah. So, but there was that club in Alviso. Then when I was looking through the old directories and stuff, there was one. It was called Joe's Bayview Club. There was the Alviso Club. Then there was what is it? The Day and Night Club. They were like off the same building, but throughout time they just changed the names. You know, it's where the old the hotel is at now.
Yeah, but that was
The marina.
it used to be San Benziano, and then the rest of the
San Benziano, yes.
I imagine with the all the history Alviso has, even back you know, in the when they had the cannery and all this stuff going out there, there was always a little side action going on out
Oh
there.
yeah. About, like I said, my book has a chapter just on Alviso, and it has not only the legal card clubs, but it has some of the illegal card clubs that were there, or illegal.
Well, you know, I always known people from Alviso to be, you know, some of the finest characters I have ever known, you know, including Mr. Santos. But yeah, they were always a great family people and had just a real sense of community. And
Right.
I still live. I live right across the street from Alviso, actually.
Oh wow. Okay, so you're right near the.
I'm right here at the end of First Street at 237. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
I had a question about
Yeah.
the business of gambling in San Jose.
Okay.
Do they simply regard these fines and stuff as the cost of doing business?
A lot of the times, yes. You know, because when it comes, because let's face it, they're not going to get shut down. The money's too good for the city or for the state, especially nowadays. You know, with the they're gonna they threaten, but they don't. They're all bark and no bite. So it's so the clubs know that, but when they get their hands caught in the cookie jar, you know, okay, they know they're going to get the slap. You know, it's just, again, it's part of doing business, and pay the fine and move on.
Well, given that, I'm kind of surprised that the former manager of that one casino is living in Central America. What was he accused of, and how much time was he going to do?
Well, we were conducting there was an investigation that was conducted by the state about 4 years ago regarding having hidden employees. Basically, hidden employees are they're on the payroll of the card rooms, but they're not notifying the state or the city regarding their employment. It's mostly because they're trying to lure in these gamblers in for a percentage, and then also whoever, like the manager who brings in these people, will take an under the table cut. Well, when the state interviewed him regarding this, he denied everything. He says, no, it doesn't happen. Well, the state couldn't prove it, and so he got away with it, and that was the end. A few years later, when I was in the unit, I heard about this story, and I heard about who this person was that was hidden, hidden employee. Well, as soon as the new owners came in, or I'm sorry, when the Lunardis bought out Swallow, they started trying to make things more legit. Well, they brought this hidden employee in to come in and get licensed. You know, and as soon as this license application came in, I recognized the name. I go, hey, this is the guy that was supposedly working under the table regarding that whole ordeal that the state was investigating. Well, if you're going to apply for a license or something, you have to talk to us. I mean, we're going to, whatever questions we ask, there's no, I plead the fifth, or I have the right to remain silent. It's like, no, not in this case. You want a license, so therefore you're going to talk to me. And he started denying it. I started investigating this more. I actually found the witnesses and everything like that, was able to prove that it did happen, and that the manager was involved, and that when he spoke to the state, he lied to them. And so when you lie to regulators, that's an automatic expulsion of the license is going to get taken away. Well, he felt that the heat was turned on, and he felt that, well, if I surrender my license and take off, they won't take it away. And so that's what he did. And so we haven't seen from him since. I mean, it wasn't something that he would have gotten arrested for, but he would have definitely lost his livelihood, because his license would have been revoked, and he would never be in the business again. So that's the typical stuff that happens in these places. I mean, that's the type of shenanigans and stuff. You know, it's like the crimes in these clubs. It's like, I can start my sentence now. A crime has just occurred in one of those clubs as we speak. You know, that's what it's like. Whether the club's involved or it's a patron, some type of crime had just occurred. You know. That's it. Any other questions?
All right. Does anybody have any announcements in general that want to speak to the room, or did you want to? Do we want to have a coffee time here? We could do breakout rooms or whatever, just for socialization, or we can call it a night. How's everybody feeling? We can unmute if whoever wants to say anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna attach my email on the chat here.
Great.
Yeah, I was gonna say is that I personally I have stuff I need to go do. It's been great seeing you all again, and
I was gonna say the same thing.
get it real soon.
Nice to see you.
All right, take care, everybody.
All right.
Love
We'll
you
see you,
lot.
Danny.
Thank you, Bill. See y'all.
Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks, guys. Again, my email's on the chat now, and again, thank you for the invitation.
Good, thank you. And I
Thank
also
you.
have it if you need it later.
If you guys are on Facebook, I have a Facebook page. It's called San Jose Gambling. So I update more information and stuff like that, and put some information that I wasn't able to put in my book, or photographs and mementos and stuff like that. So feel free. It's for everyone. If you have stories, you can put a story on there also.
Wonderful. Okay.
All right.
There's chapter 2. You did it.
You guys can be part of it.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I guess we'll sign this out. Thank you, everybody. Allison, I'll send you that link. And Diane, we'll see everybody. Okay.
Bye-bye, Bill.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.